Hello, Dan here. Welcome back to Vinyl Fury. And I have all of this stuff set up for something else, actually, that I'm doing. But I figured since I do, I might as well get one of these in before the end of this year. So let's do a little catching up on the vinyl. So first off are a couple records that I already have on vinyl, but I just got different versions of them because no matter how much I try, I am still a collector. So this is one of my all-time favorites. It's fourth album by Silverchair. It's called Diorama. It came out in 2002, and I previously had a version on music on vinyl, which I was pretty happy with, but I remember thinking it feels like there's a hole somewhere where things that I know should be there just aren't. The pressing was good, I thought, but something, it just wasn't quite, didn't feel complete. So I had read that the Australian reissue that they put out last year, along with Young Modern, which I did get. Because I already got the music on vinyl for this, I didn't get this one at the time. But I had read that it was a bit better. And so I found one on Discogs, and even though it was, it's too much to pay to buy this album again. I mean, I have it on CD, I have it on vinyl, I even have it on cassette, which I paid too much for a cassette, but I did go ahead and do it. So this one is on white vinyl, and it's limited to 1,000. The original pressing from 11 Records was only 500, I believe. And this apparently is a reproduction of that. It even says that it's a promo on the label. And this one's on white vinyl. And I do agree that it is a bit better. It's not much better, but most of what I wasn't quite getting out of that music on vinyl pressing, I did find it in this. But it's still just too long for one record. The perfect version of this on vinyl doesn't exist yet. And apparently it almost did. I saw on Discogs there's a test pressing that was done for a double LP 45 RPM cut by Kevin Gray from Shop Radiocast, who had done reissues of everything before this that turned out pretty well. And there was a test pressing, but it never went into production for some reason. I wish it did, because that was probably pretty awesome. I'm sure it has something to do with rights. There is a difference in the jackets too. This is the music on vinyl, which has a portrait of them on the back, and this is the 11 Records version, which has a collage of photos there. Both of them are good. The Australian version is a bit better, but it's definitely more expensive and harder to get. So if you can get the music on vinyl, I think it's fine. But if you really wanted the better one, I would go with the Australian version. So kind of the same situation in reverse. So the first album from Third Eye Blind is one of the all-time greats, in my opinion. And I have the first 3 albums of theirs that the band put out themselves several years ago. And I was happy with all of those. I thought, they were all pressed at GZ, so they were, decent pressings, but they sounded good. But again, I had heard that this version of the first record on music on vinyl was actually a bit better. Music on vinyl presses their albums at Record Industries in the Netherlands. Those are always great. And so I spent another too many dollars on this, and there really wasn't a huge difference. The pressing quality is great. The sound of the music was pretty much the same. It was good. There was no obvious benefits to getting this pressing over the band's pressing. It might edge it out slightly because I think it's a better quality pressing of the record. But sound-wise, I don't really think there's much of a difference. But there you go. Another one of these. Now this one I just didn't have. I have several other. I have most of the Foo Fighters records on vinyl, and when they reissued the first 3 or 4, whatever it was, I got the first album and The Color and the Shape, and There's Nothing Left to Lose. But at the time, I was like, I don't know that I really love this record, and I don't need to hear Times Like These again or All My Life. Those songs were played over and over again around this time. And I think I remember that for some reason it tended to be a little more expensive. That's my recollection. And so I never did go for it. And then I found myself wishing that I had it. So I picked it up. It wasn't that expensive. These were all done in single jacket sleeves with 2 LPs in them. So the jacket's plenty big for that. And they're pressed really well. And I thought it sounded better than I expected. It's still like pretty saturated and pushed in the mix. But the record, the vinyl to me sounded like it had a bit more room, a bit more dynamic range. And the low end especially had that kind of low end harmonic that you could feel, but it was tight. And it sounded to me like it had the tone of like a mix down, a final mix down, rather than a modern master of an album. So it sounded good to me. I'm glad I got it. And so these next few, I think I mostly got the last 1 or 2 times that I've been in a record store, and just picked up stuff that looked interesting to me that wasn't very expensive. So this one, I got it just because of the cover. And I do have my iPad set up here as well for a closer look. It sounds exactly the way it looks. And that's neither good or bad. It just is. He's playing a saxophone on the back here with what looks like a wolf. And I think it says that they recorded this in a barn, and like it's got some pretty new age vibes. But it wasn't bad. It's something, and I had to hear it. This is Miroslav Vitous, First Meeting on ECM, and this is from 1980. And Miroslav is a bassist, and this was just excellent ECM music. I think that one was still in shrink when I got it, and I think this was too. This is also from ECM. It's Gary Peacock. And Jack DeJohnette is on this as well. 1982. Gary Peacock is also a bass player. So just excellent. I remember that one being kind of a little more avant-garde type of sound. It was really interesting. This is Windham Hill. Haven't had a Windham Hill record in a while. This is Ira Stein and Russel Walder. Piano and oboe duets. Very chill. Classic Windham Hill kind of stuff. This is a Windham Hill record sampler from 1986. And I picked this up, and it reminded me that I had been looking for one from 1983, which was my birth year. I have 82, 84, 88, now 86. I might have one more. And I thought, all right, I'm going to come across 1983 at some point, right? Turns out they didn't have one in 1983 for some reason. But this has, a bunch of samples from the roster. It has Ira and Russell from a different album. Shadowfax, Mark Isham, and some names that I'm not as familiar with. Michael Manring, Liz Story, Mike Marshall. But I like having these around if I want that Windham Hill sound without listening to a particular artist or record. And this is clearly something similar. It's Narada Artists, sampler number 2. I don't think I've played this yet, but I'm pretty sure what I'm in for. This is also from 1986. Looks like it was mastered by Bernie Grundman. I don't recognize any of the names on this, but I assume it's very similar to Windham Hill, and I guess we'll see. So lastly, I love Stanley Jordan, jazz guitarist, a absolute genius, maestro on guitar. And I thought I had all the records that were on vinyl, his first several, but I didn't know that I didn't have what was actually his first record, which is called Touch Sensitive, from 1982. It's on Tangent Records. So I don't even remember how I figured out how I didn't have this, but I looked it up on Discogs, found one that was not too expensive, that actually was here in town, but they still mailed it to me. And the vinyl is in okay shape. It plays, it's not super clean. And the production on this it seems like it's a little rough, but it's still him being great. And I was glad I was actually able to track it down. So yeah, there we go. I just wanted to catch up. I mean, I still have some other stuff that I wanted to listen to again, or I got a little more recently, but I wanted to kind of clear off as much of the list I have for these videos as I could before we end this year, which I think most of us are pretty much looking forward to this year being over, even though we got a long way to go before we're back to some sort of normal life. But it seems like we're getting there. No guarantees on how much I will do this next year, but I would like to do it more. And we'll find a way to do it. All right, that's all for me. I hope you enjoyed watching. I hope that you have a happy new year. And I hope you're doing all right. Take care. Enjoy your music.